Yo, what's up content creators? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're down in San Clemente and we're shooting some day to night time lapses, aka Holy Grail time lapses. Now for you guys with the A7iii A7R3 or the 6400, firmware 3.0 just rolled out, and I did make a video on basic time lapses. If you guys want to check that out, click right above here. But if you guys want to learn how to easily do Holy Grail time lapses, we're gonna dive right in. I'll show you some easy settings and we're gonna have a lot of fun. The first thing that's important when you're shooting time lapses is your composition. You wanna have several things moving. In my case, I have the clouds behind me, there's people on the pier, there's a train that goes by. So there's a lot of different things that are moving around in the frame that's gonna make this more dynamic. After I show you how to shoot them, we'll jump into Adobe Premiere and Lightroom. I'll show you how to edit your photos, batch edit, dump them into Premiere, and get your time lapses looking really cool with some movement using easy keyframes. So stay tuned guys, let's get this done. About to start our day to night time lapse right here. I am in AE tracking sensitivity mid. I just have it at 9,000 shots because I have no idea which ones I'm going to be using. We're going to start it at 5 seconds, shooting interval 3 seconds. On the top, we're in aperture priority mode so that our f-stop and our ISO is completely set, and then what we'll be adjusting automatically is the shutter speed. So let's roll this. So as you guys can see, the sunset is breathtaking right now. We have a cool frame right over here where the sun's gonna go down in between those trees. So it's really cool finding a really good composition for your time lapses. And I apologize if this is a little bit blown out. I didn't bring my ND filter, but this is what we're dealing with right now. We have our A7R3 rolling right now. We're shooting compressed because I don't want to deal with that giant file size. And then of course we have the tripod. And a little pro tip guys, if you're using a tripod that has a hook at the bottom, weigh it down. So if there's wind that comes by or anything like that, you guys are going to be nice and safe with your gear. You're not going to ruin your time lapse or anything of that sort. So like I said, the sunset is beautiful. I'm really excited to see how this time lapse is going to come out using the new Sony interval shooting feature. So now we just kick back and wait, and I want to show you guys something really cool. I have this Alter RFS device right on. It's dropping really soon. I'm going to be in Yosemite this week doing my review, but pretty much it's a rapid filter system. So you can have your filter always on, and then if you need to take it off or whatever, you just flip it up. Really cool piece of filmmaking gear right there. Rocking the small rig L bracket, a no-name tripod, and we're just having fun. We're just taking a look at how this is going right now. And overall, I really hope this comes out dope because I am happy with this composition right now. We have so many clouds in the sky, it's gorgeous, and I think we're gonna get some really cool stuff popping. All right, so once you uploaded your photos into whatever folder you're storing them, let's start editing them. So we imported them into Lightroom and we're gonna work off of the first photo. My first rule of thumb is always going to the lens corrections tab, making sure the selected profile set, shot on the 24mm G Master. Another thing I like to get out of the way is just cropping. We'll check and see how our horizon's looking. This says it's straight, but I like the overall look of here, so I'm gonna leave the crop as is, and then let's start playing around. So I did tell you guys that I shot a little bit underexposed, and that's because we could get a lot of detail out of our shadows while preserving the highlight detail over here. So I like to crush the highlights and boost the shadows completely on probably 99% of my landscape editing photos. Then I'm gonna go over to the whites and just pop them a little bit because I really want the main focus to be where the sun's setting. Another thing I like to do is play with the temperature. That's the benefits of shooting raw. And I'm gonna warm this up a little bit. I really want that sunset to look poppin', and then I'm gonna add a little bit magenta into the clouds. And overall, if we hit the backslash key, you can see that already this image is looking phenomenal. I'll go down to clarity, add a little bit of clarity. I'll pop the dehaze a little bit, giving us a little bit more color, and then the vibrance I'll boost up a little bit as well. Next, I'll go into our curves. I do a slight S curve right over here, and it's very minute, but it's just adding a little bit of contrast. And if we toggle this on and off, it's very minimal, but I like the way it looks. And then you can manipulate the HSL however you want, the hue, saturation, and luminance. In my case, I'm gonna leave it pretty much as is. I'm just gonna pop the greens in the foreground right here. I'm gonna lower the orange a little bit so we get a little bit more color in the sunset. And then I'm gonna boost the yellow a little bit, really getting that nice glow right here on the foreground. Another thing that a lot of people overlook when editing photos is the split toning. Split toning is great for adding different tints to your highlights and shadows. I'm not gonna mess with the highlights because there are enough right here, but when it comes to the shadows, I do wanna warm it up a little bit. So I'm gonna hover over this tab right here, hold down Option on my Mac, and then we could see the type of colors that we are producing. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a more warmer color, and then we're just gonna boost this up slightly to like 10. Let's see how 15 looks. I like the way 15 looks. And if we toggle right here, it's just adding a little bit more warmth in the shadows. Lastly, we wanna sharpen our image. So we're gonna hold down Option again, select masking and drag this over, and whatever's white is going to be sharpened. So the higher it is, the more accurate, the more tight it's gonna be with the sharpening around those edges. Then I'll go up to sharpening and boost it up to 70. So if we hit the backslash key right underneath the delete key on my MacBook, we could see that this is the before and that's the after. Huge difference. It looks gorgeous. Okay, for our last step with editing the photo, I'm just gonna add a graduated filter to get those clouds to pop a little bit more and have some more detail. So if we hit the O key, we could see that there's a nice gradient going down. Turn that off. We're gonna add a little bit of clarity. We're gonna be adding some contrast. We're gonna pop the highlights a little bit. We're gonna bring down the shadows, and it's gonna give it a little bit more of a moodier contrast, and it's gonna slowly go down. So now that we have that set, we're gonna make sure our first image is selected, scroll all the way to the last one. Now this is important. You have to hold down Shift, click the last image, and then go to sync. Now we can batch edit and paste all the adjustments from that first photo throughout all 700 photos. Now there's a couple of things you want to make sure are checked off, and you could pause the video right now and go over it right now. Make sure the grad filter, if you're using one, is checked, obviously. Any noise reduction that you do, camera calibration, pretty much you want everything that you did on the first image pasting to all of them. Then we're gonna hit synchronize, kick back, and relax. This can take a little bit of time. Okay, so now that all of our settings and adjustments are pasted on every single photo that we took, we need to batch export. Super simple. We're gonna go up to File, hit Export, and then we're gonna name whatever we want right here. So I'm gonna name it Sans C. Make sure that custom name sequence is selected and start number is at 1. Then we're just gonna go over to our folder that we want it to be set and saved to, and we will just find it right there. Click on choose and hit export. And now this is where it's gonna take a lot of time to export out, and we're almost finished with our time lapse. All right, so we got everything set up. Now we're in Adobe Premiere. What we wanna do is open up a new sequence. So we're gonna go to File, New Sequence, and I'm opening up a 24 frames per second 4K timeline and hitting OK. Now all we have to do is double click the empty space right here to open up everything, find where you saved your time lapse, and select the first photo. Once we have that done, we're gonna go to Options, make sure Image Sequence is selected, and hit Import. And now we will have our entire time lapse right here where we could drag and drop. Now the only other things that we have to do is adjust the crop and also add some keyframing if we want different movements. Being that we shoot photos on a 3:2 aspect ratio instead of a regular 16:9, we just have to go to scale and then fit it in the frame as best as possible. Unfortunately, there's going to be some crop loss in our frame, and then we could just position it however we want. I do want more of the clouds showing and a little bit of the foreground, so I'm going to leave it right here. And now if we play it back, we'll be able to see our time lapse. And now we could just do whatever type of keyframing that we want to do if we want to. You don't have to, but it adds cool dynamic to it. So if I want to, just to show you guys this real quick, what we can do is we can say as the sun's setting right behind this tree, we want to do a zoom in. All we have to do is go to the beginning of the clip, hit the scale and the position key for our keyframing. We're going to go to the next part. We're going to do another keyframe right here. And then anywhere we move going forward, we can adjust. So if I want to zoom in right here, we can get that going like so. And then as it plays back, we can have a quick zoom, or we could space out the keyframes and have a slower zoom. So it really depends on how you guys want to do your keyframing. Like I said, it's all up to you in how you want to do it. We could even stretch this out if we highlight all of them. And then we could do something like a slow keyframe like so, and then have it stop. It really depends on how you guys want to manipulate your time lapses, but the awesome thing about resolution with time lapses is if I zoom in all the way, I mean, this looks really sharp, so it's cool. So just have fun with it, play around with it, and then I'll play back on the screen right now what it is that I came up with. And then all we have to do is export out regularly like we would do with any other video. So now you guys saw how easy and simple it is to do day to night time lapses. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are going to start implementing these more in your films, in your photography, or your overall content creation. If you thought this video was helpful, leave a thumbs up. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace.